Have you ever wondered why the biggest, most successful companies, the ones that seem to do everything right, suddenly just fail? It's one of the great puzzles in business. Today, we're going to unpack that exact question, and we're going to do it by diving into Clayton M. Christensen's incredible book, The Innovator's Dilemma. Now, the real mystery here isn't about companies that are poorly run or slow to adapt. No, we're talking about the industry titans, the really well-managed, customer-obsessed, aggressive companies we all look up to. So how can a company that's absolutely crushing it one minute suddenly lose its grip on the entire market? Let's just take one example. Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC. Back in the mid-'80s, these guys were the gold standard. They were literally praised in business books as a model of excellent management. But then just a few years later, the company was in a total freefall, completely blindsided by the rise of the personal computer. And the crazy part is, DEC's story isn't some rare fluke. It happens over and over again. And this brings us to the core idea of the book. And honestly, it's a real mind-bender. These incredible companies didn't fail because they had bad managers. They failed because they had good managers. I mean, think about it. They listened to their best customers, they poured money into the products those customers wanted, and they went after the biggest profits. And in this brutal twist of fate, the very things that made them so successful were the very things that led to their ruin. Okay, so how on earth does good management become the bad guy? Well, to really get it, we first have to understand that not all innovation is created equal. Christensen splits technology into two totally different camps, and believe me, this distinction is the key to the entire puzzle. So, on one hand, you have what's called sustaining technology. This is what big, successful companies are amazing at. It's all about making good products even better for their main customers. You know, like a slightly faster chip in a laptop or a car that gets a few more miles per gallon. But then you have disruptive technology. This stuff is the troublemaker. And at first, it actually performs worse than the existing products. But, and this is a big but, it's also simpler, cheaper, or way more convenient. And that opens up a whole new world for customers at the edges of the market who were ignored before. All right, this chart right here, this is basically the entire dilemma in one single image. Those dotted lines, that's what customers actually need or can use. Now, that top solid line, that's your sustaining technology. It gets better and better, often way faster than customers even need. But the real story is that bottom line. That's the disruptive tech. See how it starts out way down low, looking pretty pathetic? Not something mainstream customers would touch. But here's the absolute killer detail. Look at how much faster its performance improves. That slope is steep. And eventually, bam, it crosses that good enough line, and suddenly it's a threat that the big guys never saw coming. So you're probably thinking, okay, if this pattern is so clear, why don't all these smart managers just see it coming and invest in the disruptive thing? That question right there, that gets us to the absolute core of the innovator's dilemma. It's about why smart, rational people make what turns out to be a disastrously wrong decision. Look, if you put yourself in the shoes of a manager at a big company, saying no to a disruptive idea is the most logical thing in the world. Just imagine it. You're pitching a project with tiny profit margins for a market that might not even exist, and your biggest, most important customers are telling you flat out they don't want it. Every single process, every spreadsheet in a big, successful company is designed to kill a project like that and pour that money into safer, more profitable bets. And this leads us to one of the most chilling, counterintuitive truths in all of business. Sometimes, listening to your best customers, the very people who pay the bills and made you a success, is the single worst thing you can do. They can chain you to the present, while a scrappy startup is busy building the future somewhere else. Okay, so this sounds pretty hopeless, right? Like a total catch-22. But is failure just inevitable? Christensen says absolutely not. The key isn't to try and fight these incredibly powerful market forces. The key is to understand them, to see them as laws of nature, and then use them to your advantage. Christensen has this amazing analogy. For centuries, people thought they could fly by strapping on wings and flapping really hard. They were trying to fight gravity head-on. And of course, it never worked. We only figured out flight when we understood the principles of aerodynamics, lift, drag, thrust, and built machines that worked with those laws. It's the exact same idea with disruption. You can't just power through it. You have to understand the rules of the game and play by them. So principle number one is all about who really controls the money. See, managers might think they control the company's resources, but they don't. Not really. It's the customers and the investors who call the shots. Any project that doesn't serve their need for bigger profits and more growth will get starved of resources. It's almost like an autoimmune response inside the company. So, how do you get around that? You don't. You work with it. You stop trying to convince the giant mothership to care about some tiny, low-profit project. Instead, you create a completely separate, independent organization, a small team that's actually excited by a small market, with a cost structure that can handle low margins. This new little company is now free to find the new customers who actually want the new thing. Principle number 2 is just about simple math. Let's say you discover a brand new market worth $8 million. For a startup, that's a home run. But for a $4 billion company, $8 million is basically a rounding error. It doesn't move the needle. It's not that they're stupid, they're just structurally unable to get excited about small opportunities, even when those small opportunities are the seeds of tomorrow's giant markets. And the third principle is a killer for anyone who loves their spreadsheets. You cannot analyze a market that does not exist yet. All those tools we rely on, market research, financial projections, 5-year plans, they work great for existing products in known markets. But when you apply them to a truly disruptive idea where the market is a total unknown, they're useless. It's just like stropping on those wings and flapping. You're either paralyzed by the lack of data, or you march confidently right off a cliff. Phew! So we've seen the trap, and we've talked about the principles to escape it. But let's bring this all down to earth. What does this actually mean for you? How can you use this way of thinking, whether you're leading a company, managing a team, or just thinking about your own career? If you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. There is no such thing as a universally good management principle. The very practices that make you a star manager in a stable, predictable environment are the exact same practices that will cause you to fail when disruption comes knocking. The trick is knowing what kind of game you're playing. So I'll leave you with a final question to ask yourself. Take a hard look at the next big thing your company is working on, or hey, even your own next career move. Are you building a faster, better version of the world that already exists, or are you investing in that weird, overlooked, seemingly insignificant idea that is quietly building a whole new world? Because as we've just seen, history shows that the answer to that question, well, it changes everything.